The transport shuttle shook as it connected to Nexus Station. Cole grabbed his duffel bag and stood up. His legs felt weak, not from the journey but from fear he would not admit to anyone. He was 17 years old. He was the first human exchange student at Academy, and he was completely alone. The airlock opened with a hiss. Cold air rushed in carrying strange smells. Metal, chemicals, something sweet that reminded him of rotting fruit, stepped through and stopped. The station was massive. The ceiling was so high he could barely see it. Lights floated in the air without any wires. Hundreds of aliens walked past him in every direction. Some had scales, some had fur, some had too many legs, some had no legs at all and floated on platforms. None of them looked at him, not really. They glanced and then looked away like he was not worth seeing. Knew why? Humans were new to space. It had only been 50 years since first contact. 50 years since an alien ship had landed in the Pacific Ocean and changed everything. To most species in the galaxy, humans were bobbies, curious little creatures from a small planet who had just learned to walk. He did not care what they thought. He was here for a reason. A floating drone appeared in front of his face. It beeped twice and projected a hologram. A map. His dormitory was marked with a red dot on the far side of the station. Started walking. The academy was beautiful in a cold way. The walls were smooth white metal. The floors were polished so bright he could see his reflection. Tall windows showed the stars outside, millions of them burning in the black. Students passed him in groups. They wore uniforms of different colors based on their cohort, had been assigned to Cohort 7. His uniform was gray with a silver stripe. He noticed how the groups stayed separate. The tall reptile creatures walked with other reptiles. The furry ones stayed with their own kind. Even the floating blob creatures kept together in clusters. There was no group for humans. There was only. He found his dormitory after 30 minutes of walking. The door scanned his eyes and opened. Inside was a small room with 2 beds, 2 desks, and 1 window. Simple, clean, empty of personality. The other bed was already claimed. Strange clothes hung in an open closet. A device did not recognize sat on the desk, blinking with soft blue light. His roommate was not there. Put his bag on the empty bed and sat down. The mattress was too firm. The pillow was shaped wrong. Everything smelled like cleaning chemicals. He pulled out his and looked at his schedule. Classes started tomorrow. Combat theory, galactic history, xenobiology, advanced mathematics, languages of the core worlds. It was going to be hard. The academy was famous for being hard. Students from across the galaxy competed for years just to get accepted, had gotten in through a special human exchange program. Many would say he did not earn his place. He would prove them wrong. The door opened, looked up. His roommate was. That meant tall and thin, with pale blue scales and large black eyes. The stopped in the doorway and stared at like he was a bug that had crawled into the room. "You are the human," the said. It was not a question. Cole, he stood and held out his hand. It was how humans greeted each other, a handshake. The looked at his hand but did not take it. I requested a single room. They said none were available. He walked past and sat at his desk. I will be quiet. I expect you to be quiet also. Lowered his hand. Okay. That was it, turned on his device and began working. He did not speak again. Unpacked his bag. He did not have much. Some clothes, a photograph of his parents, a small rock from the beach near his home in California. He had picked it up the morning he left Earth, wanting something to remind him of home. He put the rock on his desk where he could see it. Dinner was in the main hall. Found it by following his map. The room was huge, filled with long tables and hundreds of students. Food stations lined the walls, each one designed for different species. Found the section marked for oxygen breathers and got something that looked like rice with vegetables. He sat alone. Around him, the hall was loud with conversation, clicking sounds, whistling sounds, deep rumbles that he felt in his chest, laughter that sounded like breaking glass. Students looked at him and then looked away. Some whispered to each other. He caught a few words from species whose language he had studied. The human is so small. What is that red stuff on its head? Hair, disgusting. How long do they even live? 40 years. Waste of a spot at the academy. Ate his food, it tasted like nothing. He finished quickly and left. That night he lay in his bed and stared at the ceiling, was asleep, breathing slowly. The station hummed around them, machines keeping everyone alive in the cold of space. Thought about his parents. They had worked so hard to get him here. His mother had taken extra shifts at the hospital. His father had sold their car. They believed in him. They believed that humans needed to be part of the galactic community, and that started with education. You will face challenges, his mother had said before he left. People will doubt you. They will try to make you feel small. What do I do? He had asked. She had smiled and touched his face. You show them what humans are made of, not with words, with actions. You work harder than everyone else. You never give up. And you never ever let them see you break. Closed his eyes. He would not break. He would not fail. He would survive this place and graduate and prove that humanity belonged among the stars. The first day was tomorrow. He was ready. Outside his window, the stars burned cold and distant. Somewhere out there, Earth was spinning slowly through space. His parents were sleeping in their small house. They had no idea how alone he felt. But loneliness was not new to humans. They had been alone on their planet for millions of years. They had survived ice ages and plagues and wars and disasters. They had clawed their way from caves to cities to starships. Cole was the product of that long struggle. He carried the strength of every ancestor who had refused to die. Tomorrow he would show them. Tomorrow everything would begin. 2 weeks passed, learned the rhythm of the academy, wake up early, attend classes, study until his eyes burned, sleep for a few hours, repeat. He was not the best student. The material was hard, designed for species that had been spacefaring for thousands of years, but he was not the worst either. He worked harder than anyone else, staying late in the library, asking questions until his instructors grew tired of him. Some students ignored him. That was fine. Some watched him with curious eyes like scientists studying a strange animal. That was fine too. But some students wanted more than to watch. Noticed him first. That meant 8 feet tall, covered in dark green scales harder than stone, with yellow eyes that had no warmth in them. His family was powerful. His father governed an entire sector of space. At the academy was royalty. He had a pack. That was what called them in his mind. A pack of predators who followed everywhere. There was a with brown fur and quills on his back that could shoot like arrows. There were the twins, and Myra, who looked like cats made of shadow, always moving, always watching. And there was a mountain of gray muscle who never spoke but whose presence promised violence. They found in the hallway after Galactic history class. Was walking toward him, stepped to the side to let him pass, but stepped the same way, blocking him. An accident. Stepped the other way, moved again, still blocking. Sorry, said. He tried to walk around. His tail swept out and knocked the from's hands. It clattered across the floor. Oops, said. His voice was deep and slow. Clumsy little human, your species has such bad reflexes. The pack laughed. Other students in the hallway stopped to watch. Bent down and picked up his. The screen was cracked. He would need to fix it later. It's fine, he said. He walked around and continued down the hallway. He heard more laughter behind him. He did not look back. That night he repaired his in his room, watched from his bed. Said quietly, his father funds half the academy, no one can touch him. I'm not trying to touch anyone, said. I just want to study. Made a sound that might have been a laugh. That is not how it works. Has chosen you. You are his new entertainment. Said nothing. He finished the repair and tested the screen. It worked. The next day found him again. This time it was in the dining hall, was carrying his tray to an empty table, walked past and bumped him hard. The tray flew from his hands. Food splattered across the floor. The hall went quiet, then laughter, so much laughter. Looked at his ruined meal. He looked its back as the giant walked away. He looked at, sitting at a table nearby, smiling with too many teeth. He cleaned up the mess himself. He got more food. He ate alone. The harassment continued. Every day brought something new. His locker was filled with rotting paste that smelled like death. He cleaned it and told no one. During a presentation in xenobiology, someone hacked his. Instead of his research, the screen showed embarrassing videos about humans. The class laughed for 10 minutes, waited until they stopped, then gave his presentation from memory. He returned to his room one evening and found his bed destroyed. The mattress was slashed. His clothes were scattered. The photograph of his parents was torn in half. Stood in the doorway for a long time. He did not cry. He carefully collected the pieces of the photograph and put them in his pocket. Then he cleaned his room and requested a new mattress. Watched all of this. He said nothing. He did nothing. Understood, was afraid. Everyone was afraid of. But fear was something had learned to live with. At night, when sleep would not come, he ran. The station had maintenance corridors that stretched for miles. Dark tunnels filled with pipes and wires. Ran through them until his lungs burned and his legs screamed. He ran because it helped him think. He ran because it was something he could control. He ran because humans were built for running. On Earth, his ancestors had chased prey for hours until the animals collapsed from exhaustion. Persistence hunting, it was called. Humans were not the fastest. They were not the strongest, but they could keep going long after other creatures stopped. Kept going. Weeks turned into a month. The pack grew bored with small tricks. They wanted more. One day, cornered him in an empty hallway. "Little human," said, leaning down until his face was close to. His breath smelled like copper. "You are still here. I am surprised. Most creatures with sense would have left by now." Met his eyes. "I'm not leaving." His tongue flicked out, tasting the air. "You should. This station is not for your kind. Humans are temporary, short lives, weak bodies, no claws, no scales, no poison, no natural weapons at all." He laughed. "You are meat that learned to talk." The pack laughed with him. "Go home," continued. "Go back to your dirty planet and your short, meaningless life. You do not belong here." Said nothing. He waited. Stared at him for a long moment. Then he stepped aside and gestured for to pass. Walked away. He felt their eyes on his back. He did not run. He did not hurry. He walked at the same pace he always walked. That night spoke to him for the first time in weeks. "Why do you not fight back?" Was lying on his new mattress, staring at the ceiling. Would it help? No, admitted. He would destroy you, and his father would make sure you were expelled, or worse. Then fighting is stupid. Was quiet for a moment. "You are strange, human. You take everything they do. You never react. Are you not angry?" Thought about the question. Was he angry? He thought about his torn photograph, his broken, the laughter that followed him everywhere. "Yes," he said finally, "I am angry." "Then why do you do nothing?" Turned his head and looked at his roommate. "Because anger is not a reason to act. It is just a feeling. Feelings pass, but actions have consequences." He turned back to the ceiling. "I will not give them a reason to send me home. I will not give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. I will endure whatever they do, and I will graduate, and I will prove that humans belong here." Did not respond. Outside the window, the stars were cold and silent. Closed his eyes. Somewhere in the station was planning his next move. Knew it. Though was not satisfied, he wanted a reaction. He wanted to break the human. He would not get what he wanted. Would endure. That was what humans did. Combat theory was favorite class. Not because he was good at fighting, he was average at best, but the class taught him how different species approached violence, how they thought, how they moved, what they feared. Instructor led the class. He was old, covered in scars, missing one eye and two fingers. He had fought in the periphery wars before was born. He spoke little and watched everything. The training room was a large circle with white walls that could project any environment. Today, the walls showed nothing, just white. The floor was padded but firm. Students stood in groups around the edge, waiting for their turn. The lesson was simple. One student, one training drone. The drone would attack and the student had to defend. The drone was programmed to be challenging but safe. It could sting, could bruise, but its safeties prevented real injury. Watched as students took their turns. They were strong, using their tails and thick arms to batter the drones. They were fast, dancing around attacks like water around rocks. They relied on their quills, keeping enemies at distance. When his name was called, walked to the center. He heard whispers, laughter. Pack was here today. They sat together near the front, watching with hungry eyes. Faced the drone. It was a floating sphere with flexible arms. Lights blinked on its surface. Begin, instructor said. The drone moved, blocked the first strike with his forearm. Pain shot through his muscle. He twisted away from the second attack and tried to counter. He was holding his own, not winning but not losing. The drone was fast but had been training in these corridors for weeks. His reflexes had sharpened. Then the drone's next strike hit him in the ribs. The pain was wrong, too sharp, too deep. Gasped and stumbled back. Something inside him cracked, not a bruise, a break. The drone did not stop. Its next strike caught his forehead. Skin split. Blood poured into his eyes. Red blood, bright red. Humans bled differently than most species. Went down hard. His back hit the floor. The world spun around him. The drone hovered over him, ready to strike again, but it stopped. Its programming recognized that the target was down. Laughter filled the training room, not just from Pack, from everywhere. Students pointed at the human bleeding on the floor. Some made jokes could not hear through the ringing in his ears. He tried to breathe. His ribs screamed with every movement. Instructor watched from the side. His face showed nothing. Footsteps approached, heavy footsteps, wiped blood from his eyes and looked up. Stood over him. Poor little human, said loudly. His voice carried through the room. So fragile, so weak, one hit and you break. He turned to the watching students. This is what humanity sends to represent their species. This bleeding thing on the floor. They think they belong among us. They think they deserve a place at this academy. He looked down at again. You are garbage. Your species is garbage. You come from a garbage planet on the edge of nowhere. You live your short, pathetic lives and then you die and no one remembers you existed. Pushed himself up on one elbow. Blood dripped from his chin onto the white floor. You should not be here, continued. You should be back on your world, living in mud, dying young, forgotten by the universe. He reached down and grabbed by the throat. I am going to teach you what happens when lesser creatures forget their place. His clawed hand tightened, felt pressure on his windpipe, not enough to choke, just enough to control. Lifted him off the ground like he weighed nothing. Crawl back to your shuttle, said, bringing close to his face. Go home. Tell your primitive species that the galaxy does not want them. Tell them that humans will never be anything but jokes. Tell them. He never finished the sentence. His hand shot out. It did not look like an attack. It looked like a reflex, like a twitch, but it was precise. His fingers found the gap between the scales on his wrist, the soft place where nerve clusters hid. Squeezed. Made a sound, Not words, just a grunt of confusion. His grip on his throat loosened slightly. That was enough. His other hand moved. It wrapped around his elbow joint, found the angle, applied pressure. Something in his arm made a sound like wood breaking. The screamed. It was a sound no one in that room had ever heard before. Were proud, were strong, did not scream. Screamed. His grip on vanished. The human dropped to the floor and landed on his feet. Blood still poured from his forehead. His cracked ribs still burned with every breath, but he was standing. The room went silent. Reacted first. The squills stood up on his back. Instinct, defense becoming offense. The quills launched toward, but was already moving. He pulled in front of him. This massive body became a shield. Quills that were meant for human flesh buried themselves in scales. Screamed again. Let go and ran, not away from the pack, toward them. Tried to back up. His quills needed time to regenerate. He did not have time. His palm struck his throat. Not hard enough to kill, just hard enough to shock. The collapsed, gasping for air. The twins moved. They were fast. Faster than they split apart, coming at him from both sides. But fast was not the same as smart. Dropped low and swept his leg. Coming from the left, did not expect an attack at ankle level. Her legs tangled. She fell. Myra pounced from the right. Her claws were out. Her teeth were bared. Caught her wrist and redirected her momentum. She flew past him and crashed into her sister. Roared and charged. The giant was 400 kilograms of muscle and rage. Unstoppable force. He was going to crush the human into paste. Did not try to stop him. That would be impossible. Instead, he stepped to the side at the last moment. His hands found his arm and used the giant's own momentum against him. Flew through the air and hit the wall. The impact was loud enough to shake the floor. The wall cracked. Silence. Stood in the center of the room. Around him, 5 aliens lay on the ground, was holding his shattered arm, was gasping for breath. The twins were tangled together, was struggling to rise from a wall that now had a giant-shaped dent in it. Blood dripped from his face. His rib throbbed with agony. He was breathing hard. But he was standing. No one moved. No one spoke. Instructors slipped from his fingers and clattered on the floor. The sound echoed through the silent room. Looked at the fallen pack. He looked at the watching students. He looked at instructor. Then he walked to the edge of the room, sat down, and waited for whatever came next. The silence continued. And somewhere, in a dark corner of the training room, the cameras recorded everything. The recording spread through the station like fire. Within an hour, every student at Academy had seen it. Within a day, it had reached the wider galactic network. Within a week, billions of beings across hundreds of worlds had watched a 17-year-old human destroy 5 alien bullies in 10 seconds. 10 seconds, that was how long it took. People watched it again and again. They slowed it down. They analyzed every movement. They could not believe what they were seeing. In the first second, grabbed his wrist. That was supposed to be stronger. Everyone knew were stronger than humans. But the human's grip found the gaps between scales, found the nerve clusters, found the weakness. In the second, tried to pull away. He could not. For the first time in his life, he was not in control. In the third second, rose from the ground, not scrambling, not desperate, controlled, smooth, like he had been waiting for this moment all along. In the fourth second, swung with his free arm. The blow should have knocked the human across the room, but was already inside the arc, too close for the punch to land properly. In the fifth second, the arm broke. The sound was captured perfectly on the recording. Wet, wrong, final. In the sixth second, launched his quills. They did not think. He reacted on instinct, but used as a shield. The quills meant for human flesh found scales instead. In the seventh second, let go of and moved toward. This was the moment that confused watchers most. The human was injured, bleeding, outnumbered. He should have run. Instead, he attacked. In the 8th second fell. One palm strike to the throat, precise, not lethal but effective. In the 9th second the twins attacked and failed, moved like water. He used their speed against them. They ended up on the ground, tangled together, confused about what had happened. In the 10th second hit the wall. The giant had charged with all his strength, had simply stepped aside and redirected that strength. The wall broke, did not get up. 10 seconds, 5 opponents, 1 human. The galaxy watched and did not understand. Watched the recording once in his dormitory. Then he deleted it from his personal files and never looked at it again. He was confined to his room during the investigation. Guards stood outside his door. He was given food but not allowed to leave. No one told him what was happening. He assumed the worst. His father was powerful. The academy would protect its funding, would be expelled, maybe arrested, maybe worse. He spent his days reading, studying, exercising in the small space between the beds. He did not panic, he did not cry, he waited. On the 5th day, instructor came to visit. The old veteran stood in the doorway for a long moment, looking at. Then he walked inside and sat on his bed. There was not there. He had been moved to a different room during the investigation. I fought humans once, said. Waited. Early days, border skirmish, some mining dispute that nobody remembers now. Touched a scar on his jaw. We had 300 soldiers, they had 60. We had better weapons, better armor, better everything. He was quiet for a moment. We thought it would be easy. Humans were new. Humans were weak. We had heard stories about their soft skin and short lives. We expected them to surrender when they saw our forces. What happened? Asked. They did not surrender. His voice was distant. They fought. They fought like nothing I had ever seen. When their weapons broke, they used rocks. When they ran out of rocks, they used their hands. When one of them fell, 2 more took their place. He looked at. 300 of us went into that fight. 41 came out. Said nothing. I came out because a human saved me. Touched his jaw again. Private First Class Sarah, 23 years old. I was trapped under a burning transport, my legs shattered, my weapon gone. She should have killed me. I was the enemy. I had killed her friends. What did she do? She dragged me out of the fire, set my bones, bandaged my wounds. Then she went back for more. She saved 11 of my soldiers that day. Shook his head slowly. I asked her why. She was exhausted, burned, bleeding from a dozen cuts. She should have let us die. I asked her why she helped us. What did she say? His voice changed, softer, almost wondering. She said, "You look like you needed help." Silence filled the room. The galaxy forgot what humans are, continued. They see the smiles, the soft skin, the short lives. They think weak. They think prey. He leaned forward. They forget that your species comes from a death world, a planet that actively tries to kill everything on it. They forget that you did not survive that world by being weak. Thought about Earth. Earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanoes, ice ages, predators in every environment, disease, famine, war. Humanity had survived all of it. Your ancestors hunted animals by running after them for hours until the animals collapsed from exhaustion, said. They crossed frozen wastelands with no protection. They sailed across oceans without knowing if land existed on the other side. They climbed mountains. They explored caves. They went everywhere and survived everything. He stood up. We'll recover. His arm will heal. His father is being persuaded to drop the matter. The recording made things complicated for him. Hard to claim your son was attacked when everyone can see him choking a smaller student first. Felt something loosen in his chest. Relief. You will be allowed to stay, said. You will return to classes tomorrow. The other students will not bother you again. Word spreads fast on a station this size. Thank you, said. Was at the door. He stopped and looked back. I watched that recording many times. 10 seconds, 5 opponents. You could have killed them, easily. At any moment you could have struck the throat instead of the nerves, crushed the windpipe instead of shocking it, broken the neck instead of the arm. He studied. But you did not. You stopped yourself. Every time you chose not to kill. Did not know what to say. That is what scares them most, said. Not that you won, but that you held back. They saw what you could have done and they saw you choose mercy. He opened the door. Get some rest, human. You have classes tomorrow. The door closed behind him. Sat alone in the quiet room. He thought about Sarah. He thought about his ancestors. He thought about running through maintenance corridors at night, his lungs burning, his legs screaming, his mind quiet. He thought about 10 seconds that had changed everything. Outside the window, the stars burned cold and distant. Somewhere on Earth, his parents were sleeping without knowing what their son had done. He would tell them someday, maybe. For now, he lay down on his bed and closed his eyes. Tomorrow, he would go back to class. Tomorrow, everything would be different. But tonight, he was just a tired boy with a cracked rib and blood still crusted in his hair. Tonight he slept. Returned to Cohort 7 on a Tuesday morning. The hallways were not quiet anymore. When he walked through, conversations did not stop. They became louder. Students talked to each other with great energy about very interesting topics that had nothing to do with the human walking past them. No one met his eyes, but no one blocked his path either. In galactic history, his usual seat at the back was empty. The seats around it were also empty. A bubble of space surrounded him that other students seemed unwilling to enter. In xenobiology, the instructor called on him first, answered correctly. The instructor nodded and moved on. No laughter, no whispers. In the dining hall, he sat at his usual table, alone, but no one bumped into him. No one knocked his tray from his hands. No one poured rotting paste on his food. Was not at the academy anymore. His father had withdrawn him quietly. Official story was health reasons. Everyone knew the truth. And the twins were still there, but they stayed far away from. When they saw him coming, they found reasons to be somewhere else. Had dropped out entirely. Rumor said the giant had requested transfer to a military academy on the far side of the galaxy, as far from Nexus Station as possible. The days passed, studied. He attended classes. He ran through the maintenance corridors at night, though now he did not run from sleepless anger. He ran because he liked it. His rib healed. The cut on his forehead became a thin scar that his hair mostly covered. 1 week after his return, he came back to his dormitory and found waiting for him. There was sitting on his bed. His scales had changed color in a way had never seen before. Later, he would learn this color meant shame. "You are back," said. He put down his bag. "They moved me back yesterday." Did not look at him. "I requested it." Sat on his own bed. "Why?" Was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was different, smaller. "I watched the recording. Everyone watched the recording, but I watched it more than most, because I kept looking at myself. Did not understand, yourself. I was there in the training room, when grabbed you, when the pack attacked. I was standing at the edge of the room watching, and I did nothing." His scales shifted color again, darker. "I told myself I was afraid. Family is powerful. If I had helped you, they would have destroyed me. My family is not important. We have no protection." He finally looked at. "But that was a lie. I was not afraid for myself. I was afraid to help you because I thought you would lose. I thought you were weak, like everyone said, like everyone believed." Thought about this. Most people believed that. Most people did not share a room with you for 2 months. His voice cracked slightly. "I watched you clean the paste from your locker without complaining. I watched you give your presentation from memory when they hacked your. I watched you tape together the picture of your parents after they tore it." He stood and walked to the window. I should have seen it then, the strength, but I only saw what I expected to see, a small soft creature from a primitive world. He turned around. I am sorry, I should have helped you. I should have said something. I should have done anything. Instead, I looked away and pretended it was not my problem. The room was quiet. Outside, stars burned against the black. Thought about all the times he had eaten alone. All the nights he had lain in bed listening to breathe, wanting to talk but knowing they did not want to listen. He thought about what his mother had said. Show them what humans are made of, not with words, with actions. Actions. He stood up and walked too. You could have helped, said. You did not. His head lowered. That is in the past now. We cannot change it. The question is, what happens next? He held out his hand, that strange human gesture, a handshake. Stared at it. This means peace, explained. It means I trust you. It means I am willing to try again. His black eyes were wide. You would give me another chance, after everything I did not do. I would give you the chance to prove that the future can be different from the past. Continued staring. In his culture, forgiveness was earned over years. It was not offered freely. It was won through suffering and sacrifice. Humans, apparently, worked differently. He reached out and took his hand. The grip was awkward, did not shake hands, but held on and did not let go. Thank you, said quietly. Smiled. It was the first time I'd seen him smile since they met. Thank me by being brave, said. Being my friend will not be easy. People will wonder why you are with the human. They will ask questions. Some might treat you differently. His grip tightened. I do not care what they think anymore. I spent 2 months being a coward. That is over now. Released his hand and stepped back. Good. Then let's get dinner. I am hungry and the dining hall closes in an hour. They walked out of the dormitory together. The hallway was full of students going about their evening. Some glanced at walking beside him. Whispers started and stopped. But no one blocked their path. No one made jokes. No one laughed. They got their food and sat together. It was the first time had not eaten alone since arriving at the academy. The food tasted better with company. Around them, the dining hall buzzed with conversation. The universe continued spinning. Species who had sailed the stars for 8 and talked and lived their lives. And in the middle of it all, a human and a sat together and talked about their homework. It was not a dramatic moment. There was no speech, no announcement, no sudden friendship that solved all problems. But it was a start. Later that night, as lay in his bed and listened to breathing across the room, he thought about everything that had happened. The loneliness, the harassment, the 10 seconds that changed everything, the forgiveness that might change things even more. He thought about his parents back on Earth, working hard, hoping their son was okay. He thought about instructor and private first class Sarah. He thought about the ancestors who had crossed ice and ocean and mountain and space itself. Humans were strange creatures. They could hurt and kill and destroy, but they could also forgive. They could also hope. They could also extend their hand to someone who did not deserve it and say, try again. Maybe that was the thing the galaxy had forgotten. Not just that humans could fight, but that they could choose not to. Outside the window, the stars burned cold and distant, but they did not seem as cold as before. They did not seem as distant. Closed his eyes. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new problems, new chances to fail or succeed. But he would not face them alone anymore. That was enough. For the first time since leaving Earth, fell asleep with a smile on his face. The universe kept spinning. And somewhere in that vast darkness, humanity continued reaching for the stars.